And this is often an area that is undermanaged or not managed at all. And just in the US alone, if we look at this as a countrywide, we're talking about $2.8 billion of wasted cost associated with electricity for the IT environment as a whole. So if we're not addressing the largest proportion of that, then we're not really covering green IT across all of the different bases. IT's role within climate change itself, there's lots of different figures, there's lots of different analysts out there, but we can look about 2%, the equivalent of the aviation industry's contribution to the carbon emissions come from IT, and 3/4 of that actually from the consumption, with the rest being from the manufacturer. If we look at absorbing the carbon that's involved in this, then actually it would take 10 years for a whole load of trees to be able to absorb the carbon emissions just from one PC being left on across the entire year. 1,000 of these PCs could be powering 44 homes for an entire year. So the larger the number of systems involved within here, whether we're talking about an individual business, division, government agency, we can see really how that begins to equate into numbers that really make sense. Look at it from an individual PC, it doesn't look too major. But look at it across a business, even a relatively small business, we can see how just the PCs themselves are making this type of contribution. Looking at it from a cost perspective then, we see year-on-year predictive growth for this as the cost of electricity begins to increase year on year. And therefore, the main reasons for looking at power management are multiple. I mean, IT power management is one of the true hard cost savings that an organization to go for. It's not a soft cost saving. It's not an efficiency in time or effort. It's a true efficiency in respect to the cost to the organization. You use less energy, you save money. And there is a wide range of potential savings within there, affected based off the efficiency of the devices that you have within your organization. And we'd hope that people that are attending the Green IT Expo will be looking to have green procurement plans to select energy efficient equipment, so that over time the wasted energy can be reduced. But what we want to be able to do especially is to reduce the wastage when systems aren't being used. The efficiency of devices reduces the energy consumption while they're being used. So this is an area that is what we term as low-hanging fruit, something that's out there to be taken and can be achieved relatively easily. And those of you that attended the Forrester keynote just previously will have noticed that one of the big priorities for organizations is to improve the perception of the organization as well. So these types of organization have the ideal three: the reduction of carbon, the reduction of cost, and the promotion and the improvement of the company image as well. So that's a brief about the PC power management justification. Verismic software as an organization, we've been around for producing software for nearly 10 years now. We're specialists in systems management. And what we need in there is we want to be able to provide solutions that address the need, not as a tick box, but down into the deep of the need, but also the organizational, the business need. So precision engineering, as we term, and the experience we have within systems management shows in not just the technology that we produce, but the way in which that technology can be applied. Whether you're a single location organization, whether you're multiple locations across the nation, or international, multi-currency, multi-language, and the specific type of need that you have, whether it's for on-premise solutions, hosted, or cloud-based solutions. Some examples of the types of customers. I'm not going to go in detail on this, but an idea of the types of organizations that have invested in us to be able to support them in these types of initiatives. So what types of organizations or what types of people really need PC power management? Well, essentially, anybody that has PCs should be doing PC power management. Obviously, the more PCs that you have, the more impressive the potential savings, and more important this is to you as an organization. There are particular types of users or organizations that this particularly suits. Commercial organizations. We've seen a lot already within government organizations, but commercial organizations are being driven down this road from a number of different angles, whether it's purely for cost saving or whether it's legislative. So the requirement to reduce the carbon emissions as part of the carbon reduction commitment, or other incentives or disincentives that come through, tax burdens or increases, whether you're in the UK or other countries. Government, as we heard, public institutions tend to be leading the way within here because of internal directives within there. You'll have seen European Commission on the previous slide really leading the way in being able to reduce the emissions as part of the EMAS initiative. But also organisations that provide service, something that isn't often addressed within there. This is something that not just you as end customers need to do, it's something that you should be concentrating on doing, but who is going to do this for you? If you have an internal organisation providing your support and service, well and good. If you have an outsourced or managed service provider, what are they doing for you in this area? This is something that is a required aspect, it's a focused aspect of systems management. It's a really focused way of managing and reducing the cost of the impact of your PC estate. Is this something that your managed service provider is delivering to you today? If you're a managed service provider, is this an aspect of your offering that you have available to you, and do you have the ideal solution? Now, PC power management, although there's lots of good reasons for it, we've seen some are within there, for some reason not everybody is doing it today. And there's a number of reasons behind that. And from a priority perspective, we see a number of these. Top of them is financial. Even though this is something that can very rapidly return on investment, there are still barriers that need to be overcome, sometimes more than any other type of project. Because more often than not, we find people trying to understand who's going to pay for this type of project. Forrester, one of the questions we had there was IT acting as the hero or the barrier to this as well. IT, do they alone carry the burden for paying for green initiatives? Does your organisation assign the cost of the energy to the budget of the IT department? And if not, if they make savings, how do they get their return on investment? This is a good thing for the business as a whole, but not necessarily a good thing financially for IT. So this is something that needs to be understood. What budget does it come from? How does it get paid? How does it get returned? As well, if IT are objecting, who's going to run this? There is some work involved in this, so we need to understand as a project how this is going to be handled and look at it to make sure it's not a burden, it's still a benefit to the business as well. Will we need more staff? Will we need to allocate people? Who will own this on an ongoing basis? So some of the aspects to consider. Infrastructure. We're looking to reduce energy usage, not increase it. We don't want to have to deploy or allocate additional hardware in order to be able to reduce our consumption. Ideally, we want to do what we've got, or do it without anything additional being added to our infrastructure on our additional costs. And as well, if we do have to invest in something up front in order to run this type of solution, how does that impact our return on investment? All of these factor together. And on top of that, the standard technical aspects. Does the solution do what it says on the tin? Is it compatible with my business? Is it compatible with my systems? Very often, the technical aspect is not the most important, and that's why we've got this at the bottom of the list, that it doesn't matter if the solution works for you if nobody can understand how to put it in to your organisation specifically to fit the way you need to work, then nobody within IT is going to successfully go ahead with a PC power management project. So technology is not the only issue. So when we look specifically with overcoming the technology barriers to PC power management, top of the list of these barriers is IT themselves. I've lost count of the number of the times that IT has a good aspect to it that they can foresee potential issues. But very often, all they can see are the issues. Because if there's an issue that comes up from this, they have to deal with that. They have to handle the feedback or the pushback that may come from the end user estate. I've been involved with organisations with 10,000 systems where they've been left on 24 hours a day. And because there is the potential for users to say, I've lost one document, or this has impacted me just once, IT may be too afraid alone to go ahead with this. So very often we need to look beyond just the technology in IT to get buy-in from the different areas of the organization to accept and implement change. Because anything we do involves change. So IT will identify the things that need to be handled, but we need to be able to overcome that. We need to be able to show what's needed, what has been done, so metrics on the problem and the solution. And to be able to do this, we need flexibility within the technology to be able to do this. We're not talking a technology presentation today. That's why we have other members of our team here today to be able to show you the technology itself. But technology is one of the things that can help us to overcome technology barriers. So the solutions that we look at need to be comprehensive from a metrics perspective, from a flexibility perspective, and must be able to adapt to the various infrastructure setups, the organizations that you're looking to put this in, multinational, national, etc. And the technology, as I said before, is not the only barrier. It's not the most important barrier in many cases, but we tend to see extremes. It's either undervalued, because people will think every solution in this space is the same. Everything does the same thing, which it doesn't. Now, just sending a policy is not enough. It needs to work and it needs to adapt to the way that the business handles. But also, exact opposite end of the scale is it must be absolutely perfect for every possible eventuality. If you're imaginative enough, you can find a reason to never do anything at all. So we need to have the importance of the technology balanced at the right level. But even if we match all of those technology requirements, overcome the issues, even if the product works absolutely perfectly, very often you still don't do PC power management. We have to overcome the other potentials. Infrastructure being one of them. Whether that be just how distributed you are as an organization, or whether it be the type of organization that you need to be supporting. Standard types of solutions, whether it be PC power management or pretty much anything else, we expect very often this to be an on-premise installation. So it has a server installed locally, software for the operating system, database software, etc. And what that means is, especially for a distributed organization or independent legal entities, if you're providing a managed service or a shared service, maybe for government, the cost becomes much higher to begin or roll out PC power management or any other solution to different areas of the organization. So rather than have a proliferation of hardware, operating system and databases, what if we're able to remove the requirement for any kind of on-site service and software? So with that, we're looking at the aspect of our solution, which is the hosting capability. So something that requires no on-premise hardware at all. Something, therefore, that doesn't impact the ROI. We can take away the infrastructure investment from our calculations of the return on investment for a PC power management solution. And what this also helps us to do is to take an enterprise class, a professional class solution that has the technology flexibility that we need for the different types of environments and makes it suitable, whether it be for a large, medium, or small enterprise. And we'll look at this a little bit later. Going further with that, with the type of technology as well, is being able to have this for the shared service organization or for the managed service organization, so that cost effectively utilizing shared infrastructure, being able to manage multiple organizations, multiple businesses without the associated overhead of hardware or administration costs for managing remote on-site hardware and software. Being able to co-locate this and have management across the internet, wherever the device is, wherever the organization is. So perfect for MSP or shared service type organizations. Because what we want to be able to do is to handle and provide this management from a single, central, shared location with all of the capabilities and the benefits of the solution. So some of the ideals that allow us to overcome a number of the infrastructure barriers today. Administrative barriers. From a technology perspective, we need to have something that is designed for low administration. Even if this is an on-premise solution, we want to make sure that the work involved in managing this is at an absolute minimum. It's something you get information from, it's not something you spend days and days working on every week, every month. So within the solution itself, keeping that to a lowest level, self-maintaining agents, content, for example, the different types of consumption levels for different types of PCs. New PCs, new makes, models released, getting that type of information from a central service, so it's not something you have to research or handle yourselves. If you're in an international organization, wanting to look at the cost impacts or the savings for each of your different countries, automatically understanding the different exchange rates and handling that. So all aspects of low administration, even for an on-premise installation. But why not just take that away completely? If it's something that isn't core to your business, but it's something you want to achieve, why not take the administration and give it to somebody else? There's a number of organizations that we work with that provide this. So our parent company, Sparksons, as an example here, providing an out-tasking or managed service for PC power management. So especially useful to be able to get the benefits, but without taking away the focus from core business activities as well. Or if you already have a relationship with a service provider, why not look at their ability to be able to provide this type of service? And a key thing of this is making sure that not just the technology, but the licensing structure matches this type of model. But like I said, the financial barriers can be the most obstructive to any type of project here. So if we can remove the requirement for infrastructure, then we can remove the associated hardware and software costs beyond that of the project itself, of the actual solution itself. So by being able to do that, and even by being able to remove capital investment in software itself and move it into a simpler model to be able to budget or to be able to handle more effectively, we're talking about a return on investment that you will get month on month, year on year. Actually tie the software into that type of return as well, rather than a large upfront investment that begins to push your return on investment out months away, so you're taking the gamble. Why not just have something that actually matches what it is we're trying to achieve as well? And if we're looking at budgets, we can move from capital expenditure to operational expenditure as well. But it certainly simplifies the return on investment model. If you are providing shared services or you're a managed service provider, being able to roll this out to different divisions or entities within your organization, being able to go to the different organizations that you support, and especially as a service provider bringing on new contracts or moving from contract to contract, having the knowledge that you're able to transfer the licenses without having to make such a large upfront investment in software for a contract that may or may not be there in 2 or 3 years' time. So a flexible budgeting model, implementation model that matches your needs as an MSP as well. So across the board, we're looking at something that can provide a simpler business case, a simpler implementation, whether you're looking at on-premise, hosted, or service provider, or from the same solution. We're not looking at losing capabilities or gaining capabilities in each of the different implementation. We're looking not just from the technologies I've said, but the way in which we can put this in to match the needs and overcome the barriers that are unique to the different organizations that are attempting to do PC power management. And why we do this? Why have we looked at this just beyond the technology? Well, we don't see PC power management just as a tick box. So by that I mean there's a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon saying, well, we provide this capability. We see it in a lot of systems management tools, just organizations using group policies to try to do this. It is a very focused area of systems management. It's something that affects availability, the operational effectiveness of systems. So it needs to be done to save the carbon, to save the energy, to save the cost, but it needs to be done properly. So the technology must be able to account for this to correctly apply to all the different types of businesses. But it must also must be able to take into account the business itself and the business needs. And that comes into the depth of the technology itself. The requirement for this